Hi everyone, welcome to Season 1, Episode 8 of the Manly Hanley Podcast. This is the podcast with no limits on what we'll cover unless it's something totally psychotic or not worth covering. Have a snack, sit back, and relax. This episode was recorded on May 5th, 2019. It's Sunday. Wait for that count off. There you go. All right, so the Jabra Elite Earbuds giveaway was a success. Congrats to our winner, Jocelyn, who was super excited to receive them. I'm jealous, like I said in the last episode. I briefly mentioned another giveaway coming soon, and it's on its way. It's just not here yet, and that's in the next couple of weeks. Subscribe to the page, or just like the Facebook page, whatever, to stay in touch regarding that. I cross post, so you won't miss it if you're subscribed to one of our methods of communication, I guess. So yeah, just follow it. You'll hear about it. Today I'm going to cover 8 applications, must-have ones, and they're mostly Windows. I believe these are must-haves. While not all of these applications are necessarily free, I tend to favor the ones that are for the most part. So let's dive right in. Quick disclaimer though on some of those applications. The online hosted ones tend to be North American specific, such as like Google Voice. So I just gave away one of the applications that I'm going to cover. Doesn't matter. These are things you can get for free, mostly. Most of the others are downloadable applications that you'd only need for like a Windows PC for. And yes, many of these run on Mac as well, but I'm mostly focusing on Windows. The first application I want to talk about, and this one's also available on the Mac, and but primarily it runs on Windows and it's free. I think the Mac version might be like $2. It's called Greenshot. And right off the bat, in my opinion, this is the best screenshot tool out there. Nothing compares. My career in IT is based on making tutorials for users, and this tool is the most efficient one I keep going back to, as simple as it is. I've tried commercial solutions such as Snagit and more when I worked in the school system, and a lot of people swear by Snagit. Okay, it's great, but to me it feels bloated, unnecessarily bloated. But trust me on this one, Greenshot is the way to go. It's very lightweight. It has a ton of features, and it even has a I can't talk today. It even has an awesome screenshot editor built into it, where you can like mark up on the images that you just screenshot, like little numbers and arrows, just what you'd need to make a little tutorial, or just to send somebody a screenshot of something and point out an error. But I ran Task Manager on this in Windows to see how much RAM it was using while in action, and it was peaking at like 22 megabytes, which is nothing nowadays. That's just amazing. And when it's sitting idle, monitoring like on my taskbar, it like when Greenshot's just there, running on the taskbar, it was like half of a megabyte. So not of a concern at all. So Greenshot's free. I'll post the link in the description for all of these apps. And before I jump into number 2, I want to point out how most of these apps you can get them the safe and easy way, and I kind of hinted at it last episode that I would cover more of it, and it's called Ninite. That's Ninite. And Ninite is a fantastic website that more or less gets rid of any chance of you getting bloatware, because when you go often use Google and you search for something like the applications that I'm mentioning, they're going to point you to a website, and most of the time it's the correct website, but there's often other websites that want you to download the app from them, but they might include some, spyware or some, adware in the download. Well, Ninite, what they do is they just find the actual source, the author of the application. They point to the installer that author has, the latest installers at all times. It's always the latest. And as soon as you click on download from Ninite, it will point to that installer and just install the silent, simple version. No prompts to click next through. It just installs the application defaults, and you have a clean version. So I highly recommend Ninite. Ninite's great because you can go check all of the apps you want that they have on the screen, and it gives you a custom installer that doesn't like install to your PC. It just installs the applications and gets out of your way. So again, Ninite is the website I use to install most of these apps. So Greenshot's the first one. Let's move on to number 2. This next one is called 7-Zip. It's a completely free and open source application that provides a compression ratio 2 to 10% times better, 2 to 10% better than WinZip. But it can work with a ton of different file formats, unlike your default Windows zip packaging program that comes built with Windows 7 and up, I think. It can do formats such as ARJ, CAB. It can do extractable EXE files, VHD files. This is for the geeks out there. It can extract FAT files, tons of them, and of course zip, and you know, it can do more. But there's too many for me to list here. But it's free. I recommend installing it right now. And this is number 2. So like the big thing you can do though is when you're setting up a PC for your family member, say you're like the family geek, right? You go to this website, Ninite, and just check all the apps you want to install, and then they install like right in a chain, streamlined for you, and no fluff, no bloat, nothing. So that's the second one I recommend. Just do it. Like you install these, and they're not going to, you know, hurt your computer or slow it down noticeably. So it's worth a shot. And again, they're free. They're not going to cost you money. You're not losing anything. Next, number 3 is TeamViewer. So TeamViewer, if you work in IT support or you're the family support person like I am, this one's good. It's free for personal use. Now, if you're using it in a corporate setting, it gets pretty expensive. But for us home users, it's free. So if you wanted to use it in a corporate environment, they have some monthly fees. Like if you wanted to have a group of computers that you're managing, I still recommend it, but it's a little pricey. So what I do with it, for example, is in a family setting or friends and family, I've installed this unattended access version of the software on, say, my parents' computer and my grandfather's. And anytime they have an issue with their computer, as long as it's powered on, I can remote in and troubleshoot it, take control of their mouse, and just see what's going on. So that's one I highly recommend. Anybody can use it. You don't have to be that tech savvy, but if you're the person in your family that is still considered the tech geek or whatever, this is one I recommend. Because when you live, you know, over a half hour or 45 minutes away from your family like I do, this is very convenient. They don't have to wait for you to drive out, you know, to the next Christmas party for you to fix their computer. You can do it right now. So again, that's TeamViewer. And all these links are in the description. The commercial version, again, though, of TeamViewer, because it's so pricey, if you're looking at a corporate or remote software, I recommend GoToAssist for that. So if you're supporting a small company, I think GoToAssist might make more sense for you. It might cost them, at the time of this broadcast, I think company I work with is paying $80-something a month. I mean, but the productivity you get back without having to have somebody travel to you and see their machine, you get your money back. Next one, number 4. VLC Media Player. This is a free and open source one. It's amazing. It's arguably the best media player out there. If your current video player on your machine is having trouble opening a multimedia file, chances are that VLC can open it. So, you know, maybe you're trying to run some proprietary video format and Windows off the bat is like, we don't have the codec to play this, or it gives you some kind of error. If you throw it at VLC Media Player, there's a really good chance it will work. So it basically runs on all platforms. It'll run on your Mac, your Windows machine, even mobile devices. It has tons of tricks too for more advanced users, such as it has the ability to convert to many different media formats or even record audio and video. There's like how-tos to do it. It's not like necessarily out of the box polished for that, but it can do it. And again, all of this from a free piece of software. It's truly amazing. Let's move on to number 5. Google Photos. Now this one's like an online hosted application for the most part. That's where all the magic happens. So the death of Google Plus, which just died recently, it was off the non-business version of Google Plus anyway. It did give life to some amazing Google products, and the best one arguably is Google Photos. So from the death of Google Plus, we got Google Photos. I've never been so organized in my life when it comes to photo albums now. And best of all, you can store unlimited photos, limited to 16 megapixels. You could store unlimited photos in Google Photos. You can do unlimited video as well. That's limited to 1080p, and that's all free. So for most people, even with the highest end smartphones, this is still enough. It's plenty. I've uploaded photos from over 10 years ago now. They're all in there, and I can search for, the word cat in Google Photos, and it has this technology. I don't know if it's AI or vector technology. I remember reading about it when it came out. It's so cool. You could type in the word cat, and it will find pictures of your cat, and it's pretty accurate. It's not perfect, but it's pretty amazing. I could type in black hat, and it might find all the pictures with me or somebody wearing a black hat. So that's pretty cool. You don't have to necessarily be organized to use it. So, about those limitations that I mentioned, being limited to 16 megapixels and 1080p, for most people, even if you have the highest end smartphone, that's probably enough. But if you're a professional photographer and you need to upload raw images, like uncompressed images, you could purchase a plan. And from what I've heard, they're pretty affordable. So if you are looking into that, that's something to consider. And they make it really easy to upload the photos too. You can install it on your phone, this little application. It will let you just have the choice to upload them and offload that upload images, like just offset it to save all the space on your phone. So that's a great thing about Google Photos, is it saves users, particularly iPhone users, from paying tyrannical priced storage plans such as iCloud that conveniently automatically backs up photos to a measly 5 gigabyte storage space in iCloud and then warns you that you're out of space. Hey, buy this for, whatever it is, $2.99 a month. Thanks, Apple. That's kind of shitty, but Google Photos is a good way to get around that. And Android as well. I mean, Samsung does stuff like that. So thanks, Samsung. Both of you guys, come on. But Google Photos is a way around that, and that will let you just free up the space on your phone for free. Totally, you got to do it, man. If you're not doing something with your photos and backing them up, I've seen too many situations where users are like, I lost everything. It was on my computer, and that sucks. So that's number 5. Let's move on to number 6. We're kind of going through this really quick. This is so you can get going. Just like start downloading these things, man. Outlook, Mail, and Calendar. I love the idea of apps that do more than one thing. Outlook, Mail, and Calendar is one of those apps. Unlike the majority of other email applications, this one has a calendar and contacts built into the actual Mail app. So you download that one app on your phone and it kind of does it all. Back when I did more tech support, users would often have trouble where they confuse their iOS calendar with Google Calendar, stock mail versus iOS mail, etc. The same goes for Android devices. Users would be confused between the Samsung stock calendar and the Google Calendar and where all their appointments are at. This application prevents that mess from happening and can help you to also free up some icon space on your home screen. So like when I have an iPhone, I would have just that Outlook, Mail, and Calendar icon, and you can do your 3D touch where you hard press on the icon and it will give you the option to launch the calendar or the Mail app. It's all in that one application. And I feel much more organized when I'm using that. Same with the Android version. I don't use the stock apps much anymore. I use this Outlook, Mail, and Calendar. You can open up Gmail accounts in it as well if you prefer. So it will take those, just like the Gmail application will, on Android anyway, will allow you to open up Exchange accounts like Outlook. So that's one I highly recommend, Outlook, Mail, and Calendar. And you can find that in the Android Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. Yeah. So let's go to number 7, Google Voice. And I really go between calling it that and Hangouts. So because you can migrate your Google Voice to your Hangouts account if you want to. But Google Voice, there's going to be a situation where you may not have a mobile phone, but oddly you have an internet connection. And in that scenario, Google Voice would allow you to make phone calls. So you could get your own phone number for free from Google Voice that you can use anywhere. And with that phone number, you can point it towards multiple other phones. I think it's up to 5 at this point. So you can point that free phone number that you got to like your house phone, say, and then your cell phone, and it kind of like, so when somebody calls this newly created number that you can give out to anybody, it will ring all those other phones. But it kind of gives you some power that you never had. You can block phone numbers from calling that one number. So in essence, it's an alias that kind of sits in front of your actual phone numbers. So it's great to use for spammers. So if somebody's like, hey man, you got your number? It's a marketing company. I'll say, sure. I give them my Google Voice number. They call it. It rings all of my phones. I'm like, you know what? I don't want them calling me. I go block it. The next time they call that number, it's not going to ring any of my phones because it's blocked there in the cloud. So I highly recommend this one. I've been using it for over 10 years, I think now. It originally started out as a product called Grand Central, which I think was bought by Google Voice, and they branded it as Google Voice, and it's remained free all that time. You can make calls to, I believe, US, Canada, and Mexico free. Like right now, you get a phone number and you can make calls there free. I don't know why more people don't have this. It is very popular, but it's cooler than most people realize. So yeah, I've been using it for over 10 years. It has never cost me a penny, and it's made my life so much easier. So that's Google Voice, and let's move to number 8. We're right here at the end. This is one of my favorites. It's called GIMP Image Editor. And GIMP, G-I-M-P, stands for GNU, that's G-N-U, Image Manipulation Program. And I like to refer to it as a totally free version of Adobe Photoshop. It's not exactly Photoshop, but it's free and worth your attention. So if you try it and you don't end up liking it, you won't be out of any money. So you can totally probably do more than you'd ever need to do when using GIMP anyways for editing images. There's just one downside to using open source products like this and any of these other ones I've mentioned that are open source. And it's one thing that I could mention. You generally don't get support because you're not paying for it. So who's obligated to support you, right? So that's the difference between an open source product and a paid product. So if you go out and buy Photoshop, you're going to get some level of support from Adobe. I mean, they have documentation out there. They have people. It's a very large company. Now, when you go get the free product, GIMP, it's volunteers are making this. You can go get support in forums where people generally are pretty helpful, but you're not going to be guaranteed the support and the answers you might hope for in a certain turnaround. It might be a week. It might be, but again, it's free. It's up to you to just try these things out. If you catch on to it and you can teach yourself, I mean, it's awesome. I use it all the time. It does what I need. I've taught myself most of the features there because they do kind of seem very familiar if you've used Photoshop. So yeah, that's a downside to open source software, and the lack of documentation. I must say though that most software developers make fantastic documentation, and you can usually find your answers there. YouTube is also a great resource for learning about more popular open source software. So if you go on YouTube, you're going to be able to find how-tos for GIMP Image Editor. So with that, let's move to a bonus product. I know I said 8, but this one's a bonus, and this is kind of an all-encompassing one. It's the Office 365 suite. So there was a time frame probably around 2005 where I was anti-Microsoft, Linux desktop only, and that went on for at least 5-6 years. I didn't like Microsoft. But I think they've changed in a way. I don't know. They've won me back, I guess. But yeah, I was anti-Microsoft for a while. After all, Linux and the open source movement is what led me to loving many of these applications that I've mentioned here. But there's one area that I could not escape, and that was the Microsoft Office suite. And this is just something that Microsoft is so good at. Like things like Outlook Mail Client, Excel, etc. There are open source alternatives to all of these applications, but in the end, it's not the same. I just keep coming back to them as much as I hated it. In addition to these desktop applications, Microsoft seems to have doubled down on their cloud efforts, and they're absolutely killing it. They're so confident in their recent moves, and it seems promising. One of these moves is Microsoft Teams and its integration with Office 365. And the easiest way for me to explain Teams to users who have never heard of it would be to describe it as a platform that takes most, if not all, of your Office 365 products. That's like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, and it links them all together in a chat platform. It's kind of like their competitor to Slack which I'm a Slacker. I've never used Slack, but this Office 365 and Teams integration is so tight and awesome. They're going for it. They're just promoting it, and it's here to stay. And one that's so good, it's eventually going to one thing that's so good about it is it's eventually going to replace Skype for Business. Not actual Skype that users use to, call family and that, but the Skype for business version that was formerly known as Link. Microsoft plans on replacing that with Teams. And the great thing is about this Office 365 suite is that even the most basic Office 365 subscription, the cloud-only Business Essentials plan as it's called, it comes with Teams. So I just purchased this plan within the last 2 or 3 weeks for this domain and this podcast. And it's only $60 for the entire year. And it can manage all of my data right there in the cloud. So again, this is the cloud-only version that I purchased. I don't get the desktop app, like desktop Word. So there's other plans that come with that if you want that, and I recommend it. But I, on my other accounts, have that full version, so I didn't need to buy it again. And another thing you need to know that is if you go buy that desktop version of Office, I think it's 90 something a year, maybe 99 a year for a regular user plan, you get that Office copy to you get to keep it on up to 5 machines as long as you're paying that subscription plan, yearly plan. But you get all the latest updates, and again, you can install it on 5 machines. So you could go to your other family members' computers, like your kid's computer, and say, like, here, I'm putting the Office suite on your computer. Up to 5 total machines, and unlimited mobile devices, because that's not like really the full desktop version. So it's worth it. Trust me. I mean, remember when we used to have to pay $400 for Office, and yeah, you get to keep it for like 10 years, but you don't get the updates after a while. It just kind of dies. This perpetual licensing thing, well, it's kind of annoying at first. The whole pay and you get the latest updates thing, it's kind of annoying, but it's here to stay. It saves companies money in the long run, cuts down on licensing confusion, trying to find your CD key. This is here to stay. This, and I could do a whole episode on perpetual licensing, which I'm actually thinking about doing. This is where you pay for a subscription and you get the latest updates to the app. The one downside to it, in my opinion, is that it gives every company a shut-off switch to your product. They can just, you didn't pay me this month, shut it off, your Office stops working. Or it just gives you an annoying activation message. This is not that expensive, though. So now, if Microsoft was being unreasonable with their pricing, I would have a problem with it. But this Office 365 subscription, in my opinion, is totally worth it. All my productivity is coming from here. I'm writing things down in OneNote, I'm saving it, creating it in Word, sending documents to people. It's here to stay, and I highly recommend it. So, thanks a lot for listening, everyone. This is a kind of a info-packed episode. I tried to get it all in as quickly as possible, save you some time. Maybe you could learn a few things on your way to work and use some of these tips. I really appreciate everyone listening. If you're a new listener, we'd love to hear from you. You can follow this podcast by visiting randyhanley.com. Also, you can follow me on Twitter at Randrums on Twitter, and look for the Manly Hanley Podcast page on Facebook. Thanks a lot for listening, everyone. Have a great day.